Welcome back to... It's the international break, so we're all arguing about whether Premier League footballers are good at football. Of course, my favourite time in the calendar. Let's talk about the £100 million player that the greatest manager in the history of the sport wanted to sign, future England captain and 2024 Ballon d'Or nominee Declan Rice. Shall we? After Rice's completely understandable and not at all unfair sending off, and his decent or disastrous start to the season, depending on your persuasion, I've seen quite a few negative takes and comments about him online on various platforms. His best days were at West Ham, Arteta's massacred him, he's not an 8, he's not a 6, he's rubbish, it's all over! I put out a post on X that I was going to make a video to address these narratives, and here it is. But now I've come to writing it, I just think, does that criticism really matter? The most extreme takes barely even exist out of very niche online spaces that have lost contact with reality for the sake of a few likes. We sensible people then all rush to attack those who are making these outrageous claims, but in doing so, first, forget that these websites are built to show us the most salacious takes they possibly can to keep us reading ads, and also lose all sense of how many people are actually saying the thing we're attacking. And by the way, I do this all the time. It's usually about 3 people saying something stupid and then 10,000 people slamming it. The sense when you're in it is this is some big debate. But actually, I think it's the 10,000 people who give it the power. And by the way, this goes beyond football. We want to fight the reactionary takes, but in doing so, we are being reactionary. However, I think there is value in a conversation about Rice's usage so far this season, and the back end of last, and how we get the best out of him moving forward. Declan Rice is a world-class football player, but Lamborghinis are more complicated than Ford Fiestas. So I hear. First, I find it hard to separate this conversation from one we had a few weeks ago about Rice's minutes. Any critique must consider the fact he played the joint most minutes at the Euros, the second highest of any Premier League midfielder last season, and so on and so on. Rice has played 28,000 career minutes aged 25. For context, Ray Parlour played 39,000 his entire career. There is a way to manage this, but with Marino out, I can't see that happening right now, and you can bet he'll be involved for England. And secondly, players are allowed to have bad games still, right? Bad periods, bad months, even bad seasons. It happens. We all look back on yesteryear with misty eyes, but forget even the likes of Patrick Vieira, Gerrard, Lampard all had seasons where they struggled with injury, form, and consistency. I don't think Rice is playing particularly poorly at the moment, which we'll get into, but if you do, you have to expect some drop-off at some point, no? Wherever you sit on that spectrum, though, I do think there is a sense that Declan Rice isn't being maximised for Arsenal right now, which I am willing to entertain. What I feel is I'm losing the sense of him in the team. I don't think about him during games, I don't particularly feel his influence. I don't know whether he's absolutely shining right now. So let's talk about that feeling. Is that true? And if so, why is it happening? There will be some waiting for the 6-8 debate, so let's do it. But the problem is, that debate is fundamentally limited. It's a good starting place for a conversation, absolutely, but it's like trying to explain politics only through the lens of right and left-wing views. You are just limited. Because when we say Rice is a 6, what do we mean? Do we mean Sergio Busquets, Rodri, Pirlo, Pogba, Yaya Toure, Kante? If your idea of a 6 is Sergio Busquets, and you're asking why Rice isn't turning on a dime with his back to play, eyes in the back of his head, dictating tempo, moving about 4 yards a game, then yeah, you'll be thinking, well, Rice isn't that. So is that a problem? And when we say 8, that feels even broader still. David Silva, Michael Carrick, Gundogan, Tom Cleverley, the magic 8 ball that tells you your fortune? So the better question, always, is what are Rice's qualities, and how do we maximise those and hide his limitations? That, of course, is about the nominal location where he is maximised, deeper as a 6 or higher as an 8, but that's also asking how many touches he has when he's there, who he's supported by, what situations is he receiving in, how much is he being asked to run, what passing options are on, does he receive back to goal? So much of this is about the conditions we put him in. If we feel in a given period we're not getting the most out of Declan Rice, Gareth Southgate, then I'm sorry, but that is at least partly on those around him, because this is a world-class football player. There's no two ways around it. He has the most unique, mobile and stable way of tackling I've seen in a long time. He has one of the best engines in world football, incredible stamina and stride length, a special passing range and accuracy with insane technique, great set-piece delivery, reads the game superbly, leadership quality, he's a second ball and dual monster. He can carry the ball, presses intelligently, reading the movement of teammates well to shadow them, can stop transitions, has a great shot, and I'll literally be here all day, so I'll stop. He's obviously a massive cheat who wanted development off, but, we can forgive that. Of course I'm over it. So to get off the fence and actually answer the question, where we see the best version of Declan Rice, for me, as a starting point, it is deeper. There's a reason Declan won player of the match after player of the match in the early part of the season last year, playing deeper, and it wasn't just shiny new toy syndrome. And I'd argue he only won one of the ones at left central midfield because he scored the goal against Chelsea. For Rice to influence the game, to grow in stature, to be the midfielder we all want him to be, I think it is deeper. So, why? Rice can play higher, no problem. He isn't going to thread an eye of the needle pass or receive on the half turn like Phil Foden, but we don't need him to. He's going to crash the box, stand on the last line, and mostly help us up the pitch in the second line, as we're seeing. He is bypassed in possession a touch as we favour the right, but as an 8, his off-ball quality can shine when counter-pressing after a turnover or doing the complicated shadow covering we ask him to do, often splitting his responsibilities when we go hunting. But the problem with Rice further up the pitch, I think, is threefold. First, I think the makeup of that left-hand side doesn't really suit him, especially with Martinelli and Calafiori. To get Martinelli inside where he can kill you, you want a rotation out wide from your midfielder. Rice won't do that. Not enough, anyway. To get those slip balls in behind to Martin Odegaard against Liverpool, 22-23 style, you really want a left footer, as we covered before. Rice isn't that. And on the other side of the coin, Martinelli isn't someone who can get to the byline to whip in a cross on his weaker left foot to Rice in the box, nor is his strength in combining sharply like Saka. Calafiori, if he is to be the left back, will wish to carry, removing a job from Rice on that side, and he can overlap, but we don't have as good a strong foot overlap from fullback on that side as we do with Ben White, so we need more of that from a midfielder. We all know what that right-hand side looks like when it's cooking, and there's a reason it works. They all complement one another's skill sets. 2, although you're getting some of Rice's world-class qualities higher up, and you could probably build more around it, I believe Rice's number 1 qualities come facing play, winning the ball back, and progressing from deeper. For me, Rice's best in the world quality, up there with Rodri and so on, can shine here. Even if he can do a great job elsewhere, even at centre-back. I also think he's much more of a goal threat from there. Edge of the box, ball rolled back to him like Partey in the 6 against Villa, as opposed to high, crashing the box. Chelsea, West Ham, anyone? And 3, it's unfair, but ultimately you do just notice players less off the ball. And because of the dynamics on that side and his blend of qualities, he is just bypassed in possession. His ability to affect the game as a left 8 is broadly out of possession. I just feel there's a level almost reputationally that he'll struggle to get to as an 8. It's a bit like the Fede Valverde problem at Madrid. You end up being the underrated one who does all the running, all the box crashing, all the making space for others, but you're never the influence. And I think Declan has the on-ball personality, in the right context, to be one. From there, if we can get him facing play, he can drop in between the centre-backs, he can switch it, he can play with the good height he referred to in that Athletic article. He's strong, he's intelligent. What more do you want from a modern single pivot? And not only that, I think we now have someone in the squad who can make him shine even brighter in that position than he has done before. Mikel Merino is now capable of coming to assist in build-up, to help Declan out of tight areas deeper, and to do some of that short passing in and out of the feet and around the corner that Declan doesn't always thrive at, Xhaka-esque. Merino can receive high up on the left for Declan to find between the lines, and while I maintain Partey is our most progressive passer, I do think Declan is our bravest. Merino is low touch, which can give Rice space to be more influential, with more touches where he sees fit. Merino has the size and frame to free Rice from some of that long-legged defensive work where he has to jump up out of the hole. He can rotate with Rice at times if the game is opening up to give him that space to roam into that Rice says he likes. Declan can drop out of the block to face play if the game calls for it, trusting that Merino has the chops to drop in deeper, unlike a Havertz in the left 8. And what does that all give Declan? License to play as he sees fit. And, crucially, support on his limitations. License not to be Sergio Busquets or Kante or Rodri, but to be Declan Rice. Because we forget how good Rice is on the ball. Give him time, give him touches, and he will kill teams. Don't believe me? Go have a look at this video he did with the F2 back in 2019 so you can see him out of context of Premier League football, and you'll see what I mean. Watch those balls out to Bowen and Soufal for West Ham. There is literally nothing he can't do with a football, and that video was 5 years ago. The idea he can't pass is one of the biggest myths in world football. If he doesn't have amazing on-ball qualities, Why does almost every single Arsenal player pick Rice for the player most likely to score from distance in their pre-season predictions? Why, despite playing higher up the pitch under more pressure since about February, for the last 365 days when compared to other midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues, is he in the 90th percentile for pass completion and 91st for progressive passes, as an 8? Why did he have 15 goals and assists and 90% pass accuracy in the league last year, something no one has done for 10 years in the Premier League? Just think for a second about who that includes. His accuracy and quality on the ball is insane. Rice himself even believes he's better as a 6, so I think this can be put to bed somewhat. Just because we're not seeing it right now, and we haven't seen it necessarily in the perfect context, doesn't mean it isn't there. Okay, I know what you're thinking. If all that's true, why is he playing further up the pitch? Well, this, I do believe, has been partly enforced. Again, just to reiterate, Rice can play 8, no doubt, to a brilliant level. So there's no problem there, and Mikel will do it again. It's just not ideal, in my opinion, and there's a story here. Summer 23, post-Xhaka, Arsenal had Emile Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, at that time arguably Trossard, and then signed Kai Havertz for the left-sided attacking midfielder. With Rice on the market and the age and record of El Neni, Partey and Jorginho to consider, we signed Rice mainly to play deeper, I have no doubt in my mind. And that is where he started his Arsenal career, bar a few games. But when the Havertz experiment in midfield didn't work out, considering Arteta has shown us what he thinks of Smith-Rowe and Vieira this summer, so that total trust will have gone at some point during the season, and the Trossard left 8 thing seems to be dead, it left a gap there. Rice has been playing there, in my view, because it makes the most sense out of the available options, not because he was the Granit Xhaka replacement. We know Mikel trusts Jorginho and Partey far more than Smith-Rowe and Vieira because of what he values in the midfield and the seniority he often defers to. In my opinion, the criticism is short-sighted and also needs to be put in context. Rice is playing fine. He's just having to be something for the team right now, is my honest view. And with that, he's losing some influence. And that's okay. With your best players, you can ask them to do that. And although I think there will be certain games we see him back up the pitch for a while yet, long-term, that's where I see him. The only thing I will say is I was a bit shocked by the performance against Morgan Rogers. I've not seen Rice dealt with like that before. I don't want to speak too soon and start some narrative, and you do just have games where you get done, but I am interested in a potential flaw in Rice's game that I might expand on if I see more of it. But honestly, if it is what I think, then I'm even more sure he should be deeper. Declan Rice is world class. Don't let some faceless 12-year-olds on the internet convince you otherwise. I think he's doing a job right now, but my prediction is pretty soon he's going to be doing another job that smacks us in the face. Once Mikel Merino returns, it really is scary hours for the Premier League. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.